Welcome to Lesson 8 Part 4 of the Kodu Game Lab tutorial series. In this lesson we're going to look at setting a starting camera and then also looking at how we can change the position of this starting camera dynamically as we go along. So here is our pre-set up world, and at the moment I've done no coding on my Kodu whatsoever. So very quickly I'm just going to program it, and I'm going to select when, keyboard, and WASD keys are pressed, do move. Now when I start the game at the moment, it will start in this position. Now sometimes we may want to start in a different position, so we might want to be a bit closer, we may want to be rotated around so we can see the world like that. In order to do this, we need to use the starting camera option so that we can set this position. Let's have a look now. To begin with then, we're going to go into the change world settings, and you will notice that about 4 options from the top there is the option called starting camera. I'm going to select to turn it on, but then I'm also going to select to set the starting camera by pressing the X key. And like in the previous videos, we now have this at the bottom which says move the camera to the position that you want, then press enter. So here I'm going to go down a little bit, nice and close to my character, and I'm just going to rotate behind him into a typical third person view. I'll now press enter. At this point it's also worth noting that I am on free camera mode, so I can still change the camera mode whenever I feel I need to. So let's play the game. And you can see the camera is set exactly where we want it to, but you can also see that with the mouse wheel I can actually change the perspective of this, and with the right mouse button I can still change the angle which I can actually see. The one thing to note though is this: if I move well away from my character and now start the game, we're straight back to our starting position again. So that's the first use of the starting camera. In our second example, we're going to look at changing the starting position of the camera so it is showing our objective for a few seconds before coming back to our player, as this is something that many games do to show the player where they need to get to. Now, what we'll try to do to begin with is we'll try to rotate our world, and we'll try to look from behind the tower directly at our player. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to try and set the starting camera to this point. So if I go and turn the starting camera on, I'm going to set the camera, and I'm exactly where I want to be at the moment, so I'm just going to press enter, and I'm going to press escape at this point and see what happens when I actually play the game. So when I click play, oh dear, it's gone straight back to following my player. In order to actually make it so that we can actually look at our tower for a few moments, we need to put a timer onto our player before it starts the movement controls. So let's have a look at how we do this. I'm going to go onto the object tool, right click on my player and go back to his programming settings. Now you'll notice at the very top of the screen here we're on page 1 of the programming, and like I've showed you in an earlier lesson, we can switch this to different pages of programming. What we're going to do then is I'm going to take the movement controls from page 1, I'm going to right click on the number 1, I'm going to cut them. I'm then going to go to page 2 and right click again on the number 1 and paste that row to move these instructions across. Now back on page 1, what I'm going to do is I'm going to say when, and I'm going to use a timer for this exercise. So I'm going to select a timer, and I'm going to select 4 seconds to begin with. And then for the do, I'm then going to change to view, and I'm going to select follow. This will basically switch me back to my character's follow view. Now the only thing here is that we need to make sure that we do move to our second page. In order to do that, on line 2 I'm going to ignore the when, I'm just going to select do, and then I'm going to go on to switch at the bottom here, and I'm then going to select which page I want to switch to, which will be page 2. Please note though, if we start the game at this point, we're still going to have problems. Let me show you. So we know that it should start looking at this, but when I click play, we're straight back to the character again. The reason for this is because it switched straight away to page 2. So if I go back to programming, you'll notice that on line 2, if I select it, I can move it around and I can actually step it in or tab it in so that it's sitting a little bit to the right of the number 1. What this does is it means that this line of code will continue to be used for 4 seconds, and then once it switches to the follow mode, it will also switch to page 2. So it means this action has to have finished before it goes on to the next action. Now, if we try this, you'll see that my camera has not changed, and after 4 seconds, hey presto, we've switched back to our characters view. Have a play with this, see what you can do.